Sometimes literally have to hold each by the wrist, and I can feel them trying to, like, just the nervous energy, that kid energy just moving. They're in constant motion. I'll talk to one of them, and by the time I finish the sentence, he's already in another room. Like, where did you go? Not, uh, yeah, it's a tough one because as men, sometimes that male pride does get in the way of doing what's right.
I agree.
Are there any mm, rituals, practices, family things that you do with a family that help you instill some of that, bond, grow the bond, grow the relationship?
Absolutely. So I think, so first of all, I we're big on this family. I mean, we're a family of six, but we're very big on one-on-one time, making sure that each kid has, time with both my wife and I, when I say both my wife and I, even separately, because we want each kid to have a connection to us. So we're really, really big on one-on-one time. You got to get really creative with it from time to time. But the thing that we're most interested in this house, believe it or not, is simplicity and connection. So our values here are an environment of deep human connection and safety. That's what we're all about. That's what Team Hagner is all about. In order to do that, we do several things in this family on a daily basis that invites that kind of deep human connection in. So, like for instance, here's a way. Here's one way. We try, not all the time, but we try to approach every interaction and every conversation with curiosity and appreciation versus expectation and agenda. I think a lot of times when people talk to each other, even in families, they approach that person with expectation and agenda. So it's like, hey man, I have an agenda that I want to talk to you about, and I have an expectation on how I want that conversation to turn out. Versus like, what is this conversation? What is the fruit of this conversation and this connection going to be? So I'll give you an example. Traditionally, I don't we don't like to ask the question in our house, how was your day? Because that does not provide really any connection. It doesn't provide any even brain power to answer that question. And it's a really, in my opinion, a really poor question, but it's a default question that everybody asks. Instead, I always encourage people, and we do the same, is ask creative questions that are more generative in nature. Generative meaning like you have to generate thought and story and detail around that question. So like a good example of this might be like, tell me something today that you're proud of, or tell me about the best part of your day, or tell me something about your day that was funny to you. What I'm really trying to do with that question is I want the kid to, number one, brighten up and search for the gratitude in his day, and then for him to tell me about it. Because what I'm really doing there is I'm not only getting to hear about his day and getting a bird's eye view into his world, but I'm also helping and training that kid to go into that day and pick out the gratitude in that day. Because human beings, we're wired to always search for what's wrong, broken, and missing, not what's working well, right? And when we talk about the things that are working well, that can set us up for a day, for a much better experience throughout our day. Another question I ask the kids, and I love this question because I think it really creates a growth mindset in a kid. It creates a kid who's a decision maker, a problem solver, and you also create an environment, what we call on Dad Edge, an environment of psychological safety. And I'll explain what that means. So here's what I asked too. I'm like, tell me something you failed at today, and tell me what you learned from it, or tell me something that was a huge challenge for you. How'd you get through it? Now, in a kid's world, they usually steer away from those questions, or they don't even want to tell you because they feel like they're just going to get reamed, for it, or they're just going to get, berated with guilt or shame or pain or blame or something like that. So like an example of that would be like, hey, so tell me something today that was challenging for you. And I might get they might be like, I got a D on the science test. And now, normally, the way I grew up, you got a D on the science test. Like, what do you mean you got a D on the science test? I knew you didn't study. You were wasting your time. When are you going to learn that you need to study and school is important? And then what the kid is basically saying is like, okay, I can't really tell you anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, so the way I respond, the way we teach to respond to that is, oh man, I bet that was kind of hard to tell me, huh? Good dude, good on you, man. Like, thanks for telling me that. So tell me more about that, right? What I'm doing there is I'm praising them for having the courage to tell me something, right? And then when I say tell me more about that, that's an invite for them to tell me detail versus why did you get an F? Because if I say why did you get an F, that decimates psychological safety. Now the kid feels defensive and they don't want to tell you, or they feel fear to tell you. But if you say, tell me about that, like what happened?
Well, you touched on the emotion right off the bat. Like that was tough. Wow.
Yeah, yeah, you validate what they're feeling, like, "Oh, man, that's tough," right? Like, "Tell me more about that." And then what you do is after they tell you, they're like, "Okay, well, let's do this." Nobody I'm sure likes an F, and I'm sure you don't like it either. If you had to do the situation all over again and get ready for this test, what would you have done different? And then they get to tell you how they solve their own problem versus being lectured by us. And then they walk away from a conversation like that feeling like $1 million. Like, oh my gosh, like dad is the easiest guy in the world to talk to. And I just feel like I learned something, right? Versus he just talked down at me and shamed me and blamed me and lectured me. And here's the cool thing about a question like that. You ask that question on a daily basis or even a few times a week, you're getting in reps that your kid knows that you're the safe person to talk to, because when they're 17, 18, 19 years old, they're at the party and they drank for the first time or they did drugs, and they have that choice of they're going to get behind the wheel or they're going to call you. They're going to look back at all the experiences and all the interactions that they had with you and decide, is dad the right guy for me to call, or is he just going to blast me, right? And I would much rather be on I would much rather have them call. So creating environments of psychological safety is having an experience with somebody that you can tell them whatever it is that's going on without blame, shame, pain, or blame, and learn from it, right? Versus being chastised for it.